Good evening. This is the appointed time and place for the Nampa regularly scheduled Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Public hearing will commence at 7 o'clock. We will have business items between now and then, and there are no comments to the business items. Public input will be available for the regular scheduled meeting at 7 o'clock, open to the public. Anybody have anything for, who's running this for the staff? Christie, is that your hand? Any comments you want to make about anything? No announcements? I'm sorry? Okay. And you, some? Well, it says here, council items first, and then it says approval of minutes before that. So let's go ahead and do the minutes. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Is it Brett? And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Is Michelle online?
MF up there? Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Good evening.
All right. I guess I'm the council person. I don't think Randy's online. So Rodney just wanted me to convey to you the decisions that were made by City Council on some items that have been before you previously. Annexation and zoning to RS for the Chase subdivision, which is on the corner of Orchard and Middleton. You guys heard this proposal in March. It was continued twice before it went back to City Council on the 21st. The applicant made some adjustments to the original plan. He decreased the number of lots from 113 to 106, and he increased the amount of open space from 1.2 acres to 2.2 acres, which was 17%. He presented the elevations of the homes that were to be constructed and a list of design guidelines that they wrote up themselves. And City Council approved that with those to be included in a development agreement that will be attached to the annexation ordinance. So your approval of the Chase subdivision was thereby carried forward. Annexation and zoning to RS for Timber Creek Recycling. Nope, that's not the one. We can talk about that one. So Timber Creek Recycling, you guys heard it in May, council heard it Monday night, approved unanimously, no problems at all. Annexation and zoning to RS6. Which one is that? Oh, on Locust Lane. Okay, so this one, I don't know if you guys remember this one or not. Do you remember the conversation about the secondary access on Shane Street that belonged to the subdivision that was a private street? You guys heard the proposal in May. City Council denied the annexation and zoning to RS6 because of access issues on Shane Street, and said, you know, if they were able to work out some access somewhere and come back, they would also like to see an increase in open space on their preliminary plat if they were to bring it forward. You didn't see a preliminary plat because they didn't have one with the project, so it will come back before you again, I believe. Zoning map amendment from RA to IL for 2 new warehouse buildings by Nick Barnes on 39th Street. You guys heard this in May. City Council approved it and added that they wanted to see 10 feet of landscaping with screened fencing within the 30-foot setback that's adjacent to the residential property, but that's all they added to it. So that's what they did. Do you have any questions?
Christie, on the one, what was the first one you talked about there?
Chase subdivision, Orchard and Middleton.
Yeah, that's the one they increased it to 17% open space?
He increased it. Yeah, the applicant did.
The applicant did.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't something that the council set for?
Nope, he did it willingly. He's been listening to a lot of the meetings that have been happening, and he just,
Well, that's what it sounds like, is that the council is really, really interested in that. So just
he was paying
making a
attention.
mental note.
Yep.
Christie, did you mention the article in the newspaper today? Statesman?
Was it the article today, or was it a couple
It was a
days
couple
ago?
of days ago.
It was Sunday's
Well,
paper,
I'm
wasn't it?
sometimes get behind and reading the paper.
You just read it today? I did not mention that article. Do you want to talk about it?
Well, yeah, I mean, because I can't remember how we voted. It seems to me that there was a split vote on it.
I don't recall the outcome was that it was denied.
It was denied.
Yeah, and then city council upheld your denial.
I
And
think
it
it
was,
was one vote in favor. That's one on.
yeah.
Across from the Armor.
Which one's that?
The Copper Depot on Amity and Grace. It was an apartment building,
It was
252
affordable
units.
housing they were putting in there, and
That's not the one that we had the access, they had 2 access points, and it was the one that went around the school? It's not that one?
no,
Farther
that was further down in front of the school there.
Yeah.
property. This was the big apartment complex, 4 stories, affordable housing,
I don't remember that one.
right across from Armor Rubble.
Was there any additional comments that they'd come back and look for a different location or cut the buildings down or anything like that?
When they brought the application to city council, because they appealed your decision, they came back with the garages with carriage houses against the residential properties. And then they moved the taller units into the interior of the property. They decreased the number of the units only by just a few. They tried to buffer it and bring the height down a little bit, but
City council still didn't like it.
council said, density was too high. They didn't go for it. So.
Curious. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay.
Okay, let's move on then to business item number 1. We'll be hearing you again, Christie.
It's me.
This is the final plat for Civil Star subdivision number 1, including 44 buildable lots and 9 common lots on 17.84 acres, located at Star Road, parcels number R303600000. Applicant is Toll West, or no, Becky McKay.
Yep, okay. Thank you, Vice Chair Kehoe and Commissioners. The action requested from you this evening is approval or denial of the Silver Star subdivision number 1, located on east of Star Road and north of Cherry Lane for the owner Toll West. It is located inside the city limits and is zoned RS 8.5. It is bordered on the south and east sides by RS 8.5 zoning, which will be future phases of the same project. And on the west by Spring Shores subdivision, and to the north by Canyon County residential property, and City BC zone property that will be storage units. This project's preliminary plat has had multiple extensions because they've been coordinating access to city utilities. This final plat locks in the preliminary plat, and they are now ready to begin construction on this subdivision. So the development proposes 44 buildable lots, 9 common lots on 17.84 acres. It is located within the city limits and zoned RS 8.5.
Zone, is that city or county?
Commissioner Kirkman, that is city. It was annexed about a year and a half ago.
And that's where the storage units are going?
Yes.
Any other questions, staff? Matt, you have that quizzical look in your eye. No questions, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to recommend subdivision final plat approval for Silver Star number 1. Subdivision in an RS 8.5 zoning district for 44 single-family lots and 9 common lots for Toll West, Inc., with all conditions of staff.
Second.
I didn't see who seconded. Tom. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2 is similar. Subdivision final plat approval, Civil Star number 2 subdivision. For 48 single-family lots and 6 common lots with 2.9 gross lot density and a total 3.88 net lot density. For Toll West again.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Kehoe and Commissioners. The action requested from you this evening is the approval or denial of Silver Star Subdivision Number 2, located east of Star Road and north of Cherry Lane for Toll West, owner of this project. It is located inside the city limits, and it has 3 different zones. This is to provide a buffer for the development to the south. It is buffering with RS 18, RS 12, and RS 8.5 zoned areas. It's bordered on the south by a Canyon County sub called Silver Spur, and on the north and east by future phases of this subdivision, and on the west by RS 8.5 zone property that will be Spring Hollow Ranch subdivision. Having just approved Phase 1, the preliminary plat is now vested, therefore any phases going forward will continue this development. So the development proposes 48 buildable lots and 6 common lots on 16.57 acres. The findings in this case are that it is located in the city limits. It is zoned RS 18, RS 12, and RS 8.5. It conforms to the approved preliminary plat layout, and it conforms to the applicable subdivision and zoning standards for Nampa. Staff feels that it is appropriate for this commission to recommend approval of the final plat for Silver Star Number 2 with the conditions as listed in the staff report and any other conditions that you see fit. I will stand for any questions.
Christie, I have one question. On page 53, the aerial map of the location, on the north side of the property, it seems to be further from the Star Road than it is on the south side. Is there a valid reason or why one is closer to the road and the other is not? Or is that just an optical illusion?
That is a really good question. Looks like, because Phase 1, that portion on the northern piece is part of Phase 1. It's the landscape strip.
Okay.
So it comes down and creates the landscape
Just
strip.
goes to the property that's there and then stops on the other side.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
yep.
Any other questions, staff? Anyone like to make a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Vice Chair, I would move that we approve or recommend to City Council approval, final plat for Silver Star Subdivision Number 2, including 48 buildable lots and 6 common lots on 16.57 acres in an RS 8.5, RS 12, and RS 18 zoned properties located at 0 Star Road for Toll West with all conditions of staff.
Second.
Did you get that? Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, folks, we have about 1 minute before we start the public hearing, but for those of you that might be here for a conditional use permit for a non-commercial kennel license, that application has been withdrawn, so you can certainly leave if you'd like to. Otherwise, we'll start in about 30 seconds.
It's always an awkward part of the meeting. We're just staring at each other.
Okay, it is now 7 o'clock, so we will begin the public hearing. We don't have a lot of people here, so I'm not going to go through all the details, but basically how it works, the applicant will present what his application is for. The city staff will give us their presentation. Then we will open it to the public for any comments. and then we'll close the public hearing, and then we will make a decision. The first item we have is annexation and zoning to RS6, single-family residential, 6,000 square feet, zoning district to connect to city utilities for a single-family home for James Cornell. James, okay. James, come down and tell us what you'd like to do, or why you want to do this, please.
Okay.
Take your name and address for the record first.
My name is James Cornell. My address is 1016 North Middleton Road, Nampa. Last August, we made an agreement to purchase a manufactured house and garage that's currently located on South Eagle Road with the purpose of moving it to our property. We have 2 parcels of land. One parcel has our current home on it, and then there's a second parcel adjacent to it that has no buildings on it. And our daughter moved here last May to live here, and our plan was to put a second home on our land on that parcel. And in considering the options of going with putting in a septic tank and well, or hooking into city services, which after talking to engineers, that there was the services were stubbed in on our property, and that seemed like a better way to go. And so we decided that we would apply for annexation to the city for that purpose.
Thank you for doing this, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Economically feasible for you, and it's good for the city.
Yeah, well, good. Everybody wins then.
Anything else?
I think that would be
Okay,
it.
thank you very much, sir.
Uh,
And the staff tonight is going to be somebody.
Smiling.
Did you not put your name on here? Am I missing that someplace?
It's on the agenda.
Ah, Doug, there you are.
Yeah.
Beginning to think you ghosted in here. Okay, Doug.
Sneak in once in a while. Vice Chair Kehoe, Commissioners Doug Critchfield, Principal Planner. The decision tonight is a recommendation to the City Council. The location of this project's at 1028 North Middleton Road. This is east of Middleton Road, south of Flamingo, and north of Orchard Avenue. Its current jurisdictional status is that it's in Canyon County, and it's within Nampa's city of impact, or city's impact area. To the north and south, you can see from the photograph here, there's a large lot residential in Canyon County. This lot is adjacent to the city on the east side, and it's adjacent to Silvercrest Estates and New Karcher Estates. To the west, there's a development at the Edmonds Hollow subdivision on the west side of North Middleton Road, and then primarily Canyon County properties. In the comprehensive plan, this is designated as medium-density residential, and this is entirely surrounded by that land use setting. The size of the lot is 1.09 acres. It's currently being used as an agricultural field, and its proposed use is for a single-family residence. The legal access is going to be required through a shared access agreement and an agreement between the property owners. As was mentioned by Mr. Cornell, there are stubs for utilities that are available to service both 1016 and 1028 on North Middleton, and there will be an easement required through 1016 in order to reach this property. The applicable regulations for annexation are the standard regulations, with the addition that it needs to have the consent of all property owners being annexed. Both properties are owned by the Cornell family in the family trust. The regulations in terms of conclusions of law, again, are stated in your staff report. These are the standards, conclusions of law pertinent to the proposed zoning map amendment. In schedule of uses in chapter 10.3.2, this was also in your staff report, a list of the potential uses that could occur in this zoning district. The proposed single-family residential zoning district is intended to allow for low-density and urban single-family residential incompatible uses. In section 1019.5, in note number 2, it notes that they are to have 22 feet of frontage. In this case, they'll be abutting a private road that will go through 1016. The property area and width requirements are standard for the RS zoning district. They need to have a 20-foot setback for parking off of the access. And they also need to have 5-foot setbacks on the sides and the rear of the property. And you can see at the chart on the bottom, these are the standard width requirements that for lots within the RS zoning district, and this lot certainly fits within those parameters. There were no comments from any of the agencies. We did receive some comments back. We did receive some notes from the engineering division, again, which were included in the staff report, and some of the conditions, which we will show you in a minute. And then the Nampa Police Department, after the staff report was produced, recommends adding .004 police officers and .001 support staff in an additional investment of $435 and $108 respectively for the first year. Our staff analysis then is that this property is located in a low density and urban residential environment. The zoning is consistent with the comprehensive plan, the future land use map. The stated purpose is a permitted, and the land use are permitted land uses within the RS6 zoning district. And if the property subdivides in the future, the density matching the limitations of the medium density land use setting will be required at that time. These are the recommended conditions of approval, which are stated in your staff report, and any additional conditions that the commission wishes to impose this evening. And so with that, I'll take any questions.
Looks like you got a pass. Okay. Parker, do you have any comment to keep up there? None? Okay. Nobody wishes to speak either favor, against, or make a comment on this application? We will therefore close the public hearing. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second. Adam seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Gentlemen and ladies?
I'll do this one. I think this makes sense. Based on that, Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend approval of the annexation and zoning to RS6 zoning district to connect to city utilities for a single-family home at 1028 North Middleton Road for James Cornell.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. The second public hearing item is number 2 for a conditional use permit to construct 6 duplex buildings on 6 lots in a RS6 single-family residential 6,000 square foot zoning district at 1101, 1107, 1113, 1119, 1201, and 1207 Blaine Avenue, totaling 1.41 acres for Charles Brandon Rawlings, representing Old Mill Investment Properties. Is the applicant? Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Yes, my name's Charles Rollins, 5614 Stadium Lane in Eagle. I'd like to get some input a little bit on this because of the tennis court property that's behind this parcel. If you guys are willing to look at that and talk about that for a minute in the open forum, we're stuck on what to do with that. We have a soccer academy that's currently in there leasing that with permits and everything, and they're doing quite well. Part of this application is for them. If we decide to proceed that way in like a full-on educational soccer academy. And we would like some input from this body about that. You know, like what are the long-term goals or the needs of the city? You know, this is a kind of a historic tennis thing, and we got a lot of backlash when they decided that they wanted to close during this COVID pandemic prime last year. And something good came out of it. If you guys have visited there, or if you haven't visited there, I would ask you to go visit there and let them know who you are and go in there, because I think it could be a possible training facility for higher soccer training. And we don't want to make a mistake at a low level and just like, okay, let's put some duplex on it and call that good, because, you know, it solves some housing problems for, you know, possible affordable housing. But if we decide to go on this full-fledged academy, it's a big deal for us that, you know, there's a lot of investment, a lot of time. And I've talked with Parker about it. I'd actually like some input if anybody would like to offer any.
So-
Sorry, but I would caution you, that's not what was advertised, so we need to be careful.
Right. Mr. Rawlings,
Absolutely.
this is your property, it's your desire to do what you want with it, and you let us know what you want to do with it, and we decide whether that's illegal for you to do that. We are not in the advisory capacity as a city.
Okay.
We can't tell you that, you know, you should have had a basketball court there instead of a tennis court or whatever.
I understand that.
So
I
I don't think that
understand
we
that.
should be making a legal decision based on what you
Well,
want.
so is, you know, this is an open hearing, so, correct?
It
And
is,
that's
but-
what I was hoping, that we could have some discussion on it, and if we can't, that's fine. We
Can I
do
ask you a
that
question?
another time. Absolutely.
So we're talking about the entire racket club, so the outbuildings, the swimming pool, all of that?
So, yeah, originally, we were looking, you know, when the pandemic hit, and it's like the tennis shut down in there out of there, it's like, okay, what are we gonna do with it? And we tried to get numerous meetings with the city and engineering and planning last year, and it didn't happen. So, this came about, and so we've got some good discussion, and I've spoken with some neighbors around there, and I've got some favorable input on that. So in the whole picture, I used to drive the square peg in a round hole with a big bulldozer, you know, what fit for me. And I changed my attitude about that drastically. And then more like, okay, what works? So that's why I, you know, spent a little time talking with the neighbors, and it's like, okay, do you like it? You don't like it? You know, some input or feedback is what I'd really like to get, but.
So,
Well, I think that, if I might, Jeff, before you go.
Sorry.
Similar to what happened with this process, where there's a mailer that goes out to
Correct.
people within 350 feet of this, maybe that's the way to do it, is to host a public meeting on the site and ask
Okay.
the neighbors to come and meet with you and talk to you about that. That might be a good way, because those people in that immediate area are gonna be the ones most affected by this project. So I would say that would be a good place to start.
Okay, with the city involvement or not at
Nope,
all?
just yours,
Okay, all
just
right,
yours.
I like
And that'll
that
get
idea.
you just
Thank
raw feedback from the neighbors.
I like that, thank you.
so I was just gonna ask, so as far as what you want to do tonight, are you still requesting a conditional use permit? Because what you want to do is construct 6 duplex buildings on that property.
Correct.
You want to move forward with that
Correct.
tonight,
Yeah, yeah, I do,
with that CUP?
yeah, I do.
So then, the 6 units you're talking about really don't have any bearing on the other aspects of what you're talking about?
Well, yes and no. Like, so if we move forward and look at, you know, a soccer academy, so that would be under our ownership still, and we put some duplexes on there for housing, just strictly for housing, so. And the academies that I had visited are educational, full-time, you know, they live there, they study there, they train there. And, you know, the two that I visited were pretty impressive.
So the duplexes are meant to house the students?
Yeah, that's a thought that we are looking at right now. At this point, we're not planning on selling them. We're planning on building on them. And
So do you have any personal interest in that soccer training facility? Do you own any part of it? Do you have a vested interest? Or is it just there and you want to build around
no,
it?
we actually went looking for a tenant that possibly could fit that, and we found Julio played for the Mexican national team, and he's tremendous. He's really good at it, and he's a good trainer, and he's a good coach. And it's like, you know, I'm of the mindset, it's like, you know, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear type thing. And so we're looking at this with eyes wide open.
Well, it kind of seems to me that you're not yet in a position to move forward with this until you talk to others. I don't know what we're.
I tend to agree. I think maybe what you should do is step back a minute here and meet with
So-
neighbors or whoever else you want to. And
So all we can do is
So
act
they're,
on
right,
this.
they're separate parcels. They're also, and they were, you know, split out back in the early 70s. So if the soccer academy fits really well, then that would take care of some housing part of it. So I would like to proceed with it, and it's got, okay, we can do this with that part of it, and then I like this idea of inviting the neighbors over, and we'll have a, you know, after Saturday afternoon barbecue and talk about, you know, a possible academy on the whole thing.
But we can't.
Hearing tonight
No,
is
no,
just
no,
on
that
the
was-
six,
The tenant, the soccer
Lots.
facility is off the, I mean,
the
it's.
six
Correct.
duplexes. That's all we're talking about tonight, and the two are not even related.
so is staff comfortable with us proceeding on only the portion concerning the 6 duplexes?
That is the only request of tonight that we will be considering.
So tell us about those. Don't tell us anything about the soccer facility,
So
just about the lot.
So the lots are big. They were created a long time ago. And because of the housing problem that we have, it's like, okay, what could help in that area? And so that, you know, talking with the staff and in the office, it's like, you know, could that work? And yeah, that could fit. So I think it's a good fit.
Okay.
All right, so then we'll proceed
Okay.
then on the duplex aspect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Parker?
Thank you, Vice Chair, Commissioners. The action requested tonight is conditional use permit for 6 duplex buildings on 6 lots in RS6 zoning. The comp plan has it designated as medium-density residential. The total lot acreage between the 6 lots is 1.41 acres, and it is zoned RS6. Surrounding land uses to the north, are Westbrook Number 2 subdivision, Christian Faith Center. To the south is the soccer training. To the east is United Church of Christ, and to the west is Falcon Ridge Number 3 subdivision. This is a street view of the property on the right side. Public utilities, pressure irrigation would be the one not available at the moment. It would need to be extended to and through the properties upon the development. Public services, 2.1 miles from fire station number 1, response time of 8 minutes. 1.9 miles from the police department. Reporting district receives 837 calls. Some history on the property. In January of 2004, the Planning and Zoning Commission denied the request for a conditional use permit for 4 duplexes on on 4 of the 6 lots requested tonight, stating that by disapproving the request, the character of the surrounding single-family neighborhood would be better maintained. Applicable regulations, duplex on the RS6 requires a conditional use permit. As far as the lot sizes, the lots would all be applicable to the single-family standards in the RS zone. So that would be the same setbacks, same parking requirement of 2 per unit, one which needs to be covered. The criteria for approval tonight would be conclusions of law, being that it is compatible with and not adversely affect the livability or appropriate development of the abutting properties. That provides a convenient and functional living, working, shopping, or civic environment, and will enhance the successful operation of the surrounding area and provide essential service. Engineering, pretty standard comments there. They would need to install a sidewalk behind the existing curb on the north side along Blaine Avenue. Building department, fire department, just regular comments on those from those agencies. Irrigation district will require a 20-foot easement, 40-foot total, 20-foot on the development side of this for this development. Letters were received from the public in opposition from Robert Sanchez and Carol and Daniel Klobnak. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but some of their comments summarized. They bought their home based on the R6 zoning. Traffic and density would be an issue for them. And the neighbors feel that they would be subsidizing the applicant's investment. Property values may decrease, and a question of whether they would be owned or rented. Staff analysis, the property is in a medium density residential area, which supports 2.51 to 8 dwelling units an acre. This proposes 12 units on 1.4 acres, which is 8.5 dwelling units an acre. Duplexes are typically seen in medium density. Land uses, it's mostly surrounded by single-family homes with churches and the soccer facility. West Middle School is about 400 feet to the east. From a land use perspective, being in a mostly single-family area, it can be viewed as a transition to some of the adjacent non-residential uses. The CUP has been denied in the past due to non-compatibility. Public interest, it's in the interest of the public to provide a variety of housing that's has access to transportation and work centers. As far as the environment, the existing lots are currently vacant, have been vacant for quite some time. Each lot will have access from Blaine, and each duplex will have 2 parking spaces per unit, and one of those will need to be covered, and the sidewalk will be required. As far as the fiscal impact, it's really unclear at this point. There's a lot to unpack, and this is a list of the prices and the square foot that would be a break-even point for the city, and you would need the price of those units. And the size of those units to make that determination if you were to look at that. The conditions of approval are those listed in the staff report, as well as any of those that you would like to add. And this is a potential motion for you, and I'll stand for any questions.
Parker, that the break-even fiscal thing, that's a new thing, right?
Yes,
And
it's.
So, let me ask this question. Is this related to the reports that we're getting from the police department or saying that we need .001 support staff and
Commissioner, that
part of
would,
that?
that would be part of the calculation. So the fiscal impact takes in the cost of services. And then this calculation is, how much those units would need to, the market value of those units would need to be per square foot to offset those costs of services.
Any other questions, staff?
Utilities are not stubbed through those lots? Where do they end up at? Because it seems,
Commissioners, the history on this subdivision is, it predates my time at the city. But at the time that it was constructed, they entered into a non-development agreement for those 6 lots because they did not want to, at that time, complete all of the improvements necessary to develop those lots. And so at this time, if someone were to want to come and build on any of those lots, the pressure irrigation improvements need to be completed, sidewalk needs to be completed, and the actual utility stubs. There is sewer and water in Blaine. They will just have to bring stubs into the property from that.
Any other questions, staff? Okay, we have 4 people that signed up, and it looks like all of you wish to speak. And rather than trying to butcher your last names, let's just say that the resident of 1202 West Blaine Avenue, please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
That would be Bob Sanchez.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, and I was here, by the way, in 2004, protesting against, the development at that time, or the CUP at that time. And I'm here again, to ask that you deny, a CUP for duplexes. We have no objection to the lots being developed as single-family homes, which is the tenor of the neighborhood. I live, when they flashed the photo up there, you may have seen a red Jeep parked out on the street. That's where I live, right across from the development, about midway. And I've spoken to, several of the owners, some of them that didn't make it here, but, feeling that, well, it was a done deal, it wasn't going to do any good for them to come in, but I don't have those feelings. I feel that you need all that information, before you can, make a decision. I bought my home, because of the single-family, environment of the area, and I feel like single-family homes would do more to protect my investment, than duplexes across the street. And so, again, I am opposed, to the CUP
Thank you for
being
coming.
requested. Thank you.
Next, I have the resident of 1215 West Hawk Court. State your name and address for the record.
Kevin Dunton at 1215 West Hawk Court. So, yeah, I'd like to, just basically second what he was saying. I was also here in 2004, but we owned a home on Hawk Place at the time, and we moved away. So we weren't part of the CUP last time. We bought another house because, again, we like the neighborhood for the same reasons he stated. I think we share the concerns that this neighborhood has not changed since 2004, so the reasons that applied with 4 duplexes apply even more with 6. We have no problem with single-family homes there. That's great. Glad to see that developed. But I think, for us, the parking and the traffic are probably the biggest concerns, because getting out on Boundary to go into town, you have to turn left. And that traffic on Roosevelt is getting very busy. I'm sure you guys are even more aware than I am. And then also getting out on Blaine, trying to turn left, it's already difficult. So we have to, if we want to get into town or go to Fred Meyer's, we have to zigzag through the neighborhood. I don't think this will help. So anyhow, those are our concerns. We share it with the neighbors.
Thank you very much, sir. Next, we have 1208 West Blaine Avenue. Oh, Daniel and Carol, I can read your names.
Well, what they both said, that's how we feel. And then there's other things that doesn't, but because of the lots where they're at, Blaine Avenue, as you know, it's not a through street. It ends, you never get to Middleton, you have homes. So you can either go down Boundary to Roosevelt or turn where we're at, right on a corner lot. And that's what's going on. And then you're going through the neighborhood. And so the people that live farther in the neighborhood, they will start noticing it when it's constantly going. And, you know, you would have to have a stoplight there, and you're not gonna do that. You just put up stuff for the kids, you know, where you can press a button and they can walk across. So it's, there's a lot to it. It isn't just for an organization and they get what they wanna do, possibly. It's the long run, and it involves this town. I mean, we bought those homes, moved from Chicago and bought it in '95. And it's, you know, it's a very beautiful area. And I feel the same way. If it's individual homes as it was originally set up for, I said, you need a big area to build apartments, you know.
Thank you very much, sir. And last, we have 1116 West Blaine, and I can read Andrew's name. Very good, Andrew. You followed the instruction, and you print very well.
My name's Andrew. So,
Address, please, Andrew.
1116 West Blaine Avenue. I live right across the street from there, and not like the other guys, I just bought just under 3 years ago. It's my first home, and I used to live in duplexes. I used to live in apartments, and I do have 2 little boys that you may or may have not have saw right now. But we wanted to get to the suburbs, to a single-family home, to get, you know, as in life, you want to build up and get bigger and stuff. And so we bought this single-family home, and I still remember talking to the real estate agent. I said, what is all that across the street? He said, it's a racquetball place. And I said, well, what about all the dirt? He said, it's subdivided for single-family homes. So I said, all right, great, you know, single-family homes. I wanted to get away from the crime that it brings, everything else that duplexes, apartments bring. So by them kind of following me, it's kind of like a stab in the back, I feel like. So I think it should be single residential. Every house in that block is single residential all around. They talked about the traffic, when church gets out, school, any of that. You try and make a left on Blaine onto Midland, good luck. I mean, you'll be sitting there for a while. And then each of these duplexes have 2 cars each, that's 24 cars. I mean, it's just, you do the math, it just adds up. So, I don't know, I just wanted to get into single-family homes, and that's about all I got to say is,
Okay.
you know,
To the
thank you.
point. Thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone else like to speak in favor, opposition, or make a comment? Anyone notice you got up and did you just sign up for something else? No. Okay. All right. Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Want to hear from the applicant first, probably?
Oh, yes, I apologize. Sir, Mr. Rowan, would you like to come back up and?
So in this, and looking at this all the way around, most of all the surrounding properties are almost half the size of these parcels. So in my opinion, it would be a good fit to allow the duplexes in those. It's not like we're trying to cram more in a smaller area. So if we looked at the lot sizes across the street and we took the whole thing and looked at it as an equal, then it would certainly fit. I understand concerns with traffic. I understand all those concerns, fire protection, police, all of it. We also have a housing crisis problem. And you know, that's one of the things we're looking at as well, is I have 14 grandchildren. I'm trying to figure out a place for them to live one day. So I think looking at this, eyes wide open is really important, and I like your comment. Thank you for that. No, I'll follow through with that. Thank you.
Hold on just a sec, if you would. I got a question.
Absolutely.
Do you have any idea what, and the architect on this panel sits at the end of this,
Okay.
at the end of this bench, but duplexes can look so different. You can have two-story duplexes, you have single level with garages that look like homes and they're just maybe attached, but any idea of what
Yeah.
these might look like?
But cost effective wise, if we build up, it's more cost effective than building out, spreading out some duplexes and trying to get a single car garage on each one and 2 parking places and sidewalks and all that is a little bit cumbersome on this building. I like nice looking things, especially if, you know, we're looking at holding on to these, you know, for long term. Pretty much anyway, we go with.
So
it.
you're anticipating that they're gonna be two-story?
Correct, yeah.
Rather
And some nice looking one. We've taken, you know, done our real estate tour and found some that we really like quite well, actually. And I think that they would be cost effective to build in a little bit of a corrective market other than right now. So these prices are phenomenal to me, you know, estimated square foot prices of the homes that was up on the border. I have a hard time digesting that. Based on some of the prices for lumber and plumbing fixtures and things, yeah, I can see that happening, but, and, you know, that's one of the reasons why I started with open this up for discussion, because it's bigger than just a duplex on a piece of property, in my opinion. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, now,
Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
second,
Second.
Jeff?
Yeah.
Motion is made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. What say you, gentlemen and ladies? Lady?
For me, I'm inclined to deny, because I think on the whole, if you were to have the neighborhood meeting, talk to the neighbors, and then take that feedback and then engage the services of a master planner or a land planner and come up with a plan for the whole property, you could probably come up with a more cohesive thing for the entire property than you would just trying to piecemeal it. And so, and I know you want to respond, but it's, public hearing's closed now, so, and I'm just giving my opinion at this point. So, in my opinion, I think that it would be better to come back, you know, after having thought about the entire plan for the entire property, it might be better. And the fact that, you know, we've had comment, and I know what you were saying about the lot sizes, but it is, you know, primarily a single-family residential in the area. And so I think that it doesn't, given what we have to consider with the conclusions of law, I don't think it does fit with what is going on in the surrounding area. So that's kind of my thoughts where I'm at.
My opinion is that I think that this project would fit in this area if we put a condition on that the duplexes would be single level homes, because I think then it would be more conducive to fit within the area of the single family homes that are in that area. I think if you go two-story, and I don't know whether or not that's fiscally feasible for the applicant, but if I were to approve this, I would want to add that condition that we keep it single family, so it's more
Single
with
level.
the surrounding properties.
You said single family again, you meant
Sorry, not single family, single
level.
level, thank you.
I think a good portion of the homes that are around there, though, directly surrounding it are two-story homes.
Oh,
They are. There's quite a few of them.
I'm just looking down from the satellite. view.
Right. Yeah.
They're all single level.
Anyone else?
Well, then that condition wouldn't really matter. You know, if there was a way to not make them look like apartments. Because I really do, I understand the concern from the people who have spoken and testified. I do.
And I think also the idea of ownership versus rental, you know, if they were more of a townhome product where, you know, it is an ownership product and that there would be a single family that lived in each one of those, even if they were sharing a common wall, you know, it'd still be a single family residence. And that might change the dynamic, but I think in a neighborhood where it's primarily people owning their own single family homes,
Agreed.
bringing in rental properties, you know, can be problematic.
Anyone else? Ron, look like you're getting ready to say something?
I was just doing math on the size of lots. I mean, if it was,
Well,
it's,
we have,
you think single-family residential, the street lots that face Blaine are, you know, they're smaller, but they're not half as small, and we're trying to put 2 units on one lot with another garage and covered parking space, and it just seems tight, in my opinion. That's not my field of expertise, so I don't know, so maybe they can make it work, but I agree with the compatibility issues. You've got several hundred homes, it looks like, right in that area, and they're all single-family homes. So I think if it was a larger commercially zoned piece, it may warrant some multifamily, but again, the transition, but I don't think it fits there.
well, we have 2-1. Would somebody like to make a motion and see how everybody else goes?
I'll leave it to the architect.
Mr. Vice Chair, I'll go ahead and move that we deny the conditional use permit to construct 6 duplex buildings on 6 lots in an RS6 single-family residential, 6,000 square foot zoning district at 1101, 1107, 1113, 1119, 1201, and 1207 Blaine Avenue, totaling 1.41 acres for Charles Brandon Rollins, representing Old Mill Investment Properties, with, I guess, the conclusions of law that there is not compatibility with the surrounding area that would justify constructing duplex products. Is that how we do that with the conclusions of law, right?
Second.
Brett, was that, who seconded it? Okay. Motion has been made. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, sir. I hope we helped to answer your question for you.
Gives us a place to work from.
There you go. Good way to look at it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and you can appeal that to city council too, by the way. Okay, the next item is a annexation and zoning. Everybody kind of steps out the door. Okay, annexation and zoning to RS6, single-family residential, 6,000 square foot zoning district at East Locust Lane, a small portion of Robinson Road and 4417 South Happy Valley Road, and preliminary plat for Harvest Creek subdivision for 214 detached single-family lots on approximately 39 acres and 35 common lots on 16.4 acres, with a gross density of 3.05 and the net density of 5.5, a 70.28 acre portion of the proposed property, 76.2 annexation area, located on the east side of Happy Valley Road. for Hayden Homes. And looks like Tim, you'll help me out there, won't you, Tim?
Good evening. Tim Mockwell with Hayden Homes, 1406 North Main Street, Suite 109 Meridian, 83642.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you for your time this evening. So the project, that was not a good start.
Okay, thank you for your presentation.
So, let's see, now, it must be different, yeah, there we go. So the property is situated in the city's area of impact and is firmly surrounded by, does this have a pointer? Yeah, but it doesn't work on the LCD. Doesn't work. Yeah. So you can see the white asterisk, that's the property at the southeast corner of Happy Valley and Locust Lane. The property is in the center or centered, surrounded by medium-density residential. We're proposing for tonight for approval of our annexation with a zone of RS6, which is in compliance with the medium-density residential in the Nampa future land use map. Annexation area is 76.2 acres, and the subdivision consists of 70.28 acres. Our RS6 zone would allow us to, the reasoning behind us submitting for an RS6 is that it allows us some flexibility with regard to both the product type, size, two-story, single-story, two-car garage, three-car garage, RV garage. It also gives us some flexibility in allowing some smaller lots in that bottom 20% calculated area that will, give us a little bit of better opportunity for some affordability there. The max density in the medium density residential is 7.26. We're proposing 3.05 gross, 5.5 net. I wanted to cover just a couple of, you can see here's just a map from the city's website showing some of the zoning. One thing I did want to point out, you see the red site labeled along the south boundary. We're framed by the Reidenbaugh Canal. City's Parks and Pathways Master Plan calls for a 10-foot pathway along the Reidenbaugh, which we've included in our plan. This is a graphic of our subdivision layout. 214 buildable lots. The 34 infill lots are located in, and I apologize that I can't point there, maybe Christie would be able to. I'm looking for the 34 infill lots that are 5,500 square foot, basically right in that general area. We can find those to interior, so they're truly infill lots. The middle 60%, there's 103 lots that average over 8,000, just over 8,000. And then the 34 largest lots, which is the top 20%, are in the 8,300 to 8,600 range. All 214 building lots will be detached single-family homes, and again, a variety of single and two-story. All the streets interior to the subdivision proposed have a 6-foot landscape planter, so the sidewalk is detached. There's a planter strip between the sidewalk and the curb and gutter, so we'll have street trees and sod in those planter strips, so it's going to have a nice look as you drive through the community. We have proposed 16.4 acres of the site as common area, which is 23.3%. Our usable open space is 11.4. Much of that non-usable is the buffers along Locust and Happy Valley, as well as the sizable irrigation district easements along the Reidenbaugh and the other canals that are bordering the property. Within our common areas, though, we do have extensive off-street pathways connected throughout the subdivision. We've tried to locate quite a bit of these fingers of common area so that it ties all the common areas together with as little motion on the the street-connected sidewalks, if that makes sense. So, you know, trying to connect as much of it by off-street pathways as we could. We've got quite a few amenities in our package here, including basketball court, sand volleyball, again, the pathways. We've got 2 shade structures, play sets, and then just extensive landscaping. We did have 2 neighborhood meetings for this. In the 2 meetings, we had a total of 6 people show up, 4 of which were, 2 were living right there and the sellers for the property. 2 others were relatives. 2 others had shown, one was a mother or a lady that lived south of the project on Happy Valley and her daughter. So the 2 comments, or the 1 comment really that we heard at the neighborhood meetings, the 2 meetings, was the traffic, in particular the curve at Happy Valley. And so we hired, as required by city, we hired Kimley Horn to prepare a traffic study, and they studied primarily the intersections. So we didn't really study that curve of Happy Valley. I think we will be making that situation somewhat safer just by a much safer shoulder situation, because we'll be filling that ditch and piping it along Happy Valley and along Locust as it borders our project. Beyond that, any of the recommendations in the TIS for mitigation of traffic generated by the project we're on the hook to comply with, as stated in the city engineer's letter. The last thing that I wanted to touch on was the levels of service for police and fire. I know that's a hot button with the new House bill. Based on the new fiscal impact analysis prepared by staff, and the square footage of the homes we will be building will meet or exceed the amounts required to be considered a positive for the city financially. So unfortunately, they are going to be expensive enough to meet that threshold of what's considered a net positive to the city. But the more product that we're able to put in there, particularly some of that smaller, will help offset some of that to the best we can. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm in agreement with any of the staff's recommended conditions of approval, including the engineer's comments.
I do have a question, and Daniel may allude to this when the staff present, but that intersection at Happy Valley and Locust, is that going to be aligned? Is Locust going to be aligned? Because that is a deadly intersection, especially with more of those, more houses going in there.
If I could, and then if Daniel has more comments, I mean, they'll have an opportunity to come up. But in coordination with Caleb and the city, those were the dimensional requirements they provided to us for a conceptual roundabout at that intersection. I don't know what the construction schedule for that is, but we're required to dedicate the right-of-way along both Locust and Happy Valley for the future construction of that roundabout. And Kimley Horn did analyze that intersection as well, including accident reports. And so that's part of our traffic impact study.
It's a crazy intersection.
Any other questions of the applicant? Thank you, sir. I'm sure we'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Daniel, could you do me a big favor? Right back there and hand me the sheet.
I don't think that's what it is.
Okay, Christie? Check. The lady signed up for one. Maybe it's on a different sheet.
He's just really like zoned in on you, huh?
Hey, you came to the meeting. We want you to have a chance.
They had public hearing 3 at the front of the thing.
Thank you. Okay, now we can hear from Christie.
All right. Thank you, Vice Chair Kehoe and Commissioners. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. The requests before you this evening are for recommendation of approval or denial of the annexation and zoning to RS6 and approval or denial of the Harvest Creek preliminary plat on South Happy Valley Road for Tim Makwa Hayden Homes. The property is currently under the jurisdiction of Canyon County, but it is within the city's impact area. The surrounding land uses out there are single-family rural residential and ag. The path of annexation incorporates 5 parcels, one owned by Mr. and Mrs. Stephen Kelly, one is right-of-way, and the rest of them are owned by Cynthia Moss. The city's water and sewer and pressure irrigation systems have been shown to have adequate capacity to serve the property. Fire has indicated that the nearest fire station is 3.5 miles away with a 9-minute response time. And police has indicated that the nearest station is 5.3 miles away. So as we go through this, please keep in mind that the applicable regulations for annexation are that the property needs to be eligible for annexation. It must be adjacent to the Nampa city limits. It must be reasonably assumed to be available for orderly development, and the proposed zoning must match the adopted comprehensive plan. So to be eligible for RS6 zoning, it must match the medium density residential land use designation that is shown on the comp plan. It should show that it is compatible with the surrounding zoning and land uses. It should not create a spot zone, and it should prove to be within the public interest for development. We did receive input from one member of the community in regards to traffic, and we also received input from various departments. The building department with their standard Title IV requirements, the city forester in regards to the landscape plan, the Parks Department addressing the pathway construction, as was mentioned by the applicant, Nampa Meridian Irrigation District and Boise Project Board of Controls discussed proper plan review on their part and licensing within their easements. And then we received standard conditions and comments from CenturyLink, Nampa Highway District Number 1, the GIS Department, and our engineering department. The fire department and the police department also gave their input. PD indicates that this might increase their need for officers at 0.94 officers and 0.31 support staff. And fire has indicated that with the 642 residences this will bring, it may require 0.642 firefighter positions. So when staff analyzed this project, we found that Kestrel Estates is a county sub that lies across Happy Valley right-of-way. And this project is surrounded by agricultural land that is bisected by a number of waterways and irrigation facilities. The city limits are to the southwest and northwest of the subject property. The nearest zoning designation is RS6 to the northwest, but the path of annexation provides adjacency to RS 8.5 zoned properties to the southwest. The future land use designation is medium density residential that has a density allowance of 2.5 to 8 dwelling units per gross acre. This project proposes 3.05 dwelling units per gross acre. Columbia High School is approximately 2 miles away. East Valley Middle School is approximately 1.25 miles away, and Ronald Reagan Elementary is also 1.25 miles away. Compass has stated that the housing to job ratio indicates that more jobs are needed in this area. Farmland is being consumed by the development, but it is surrounded by 1,117 acres of farmland existing within 1 mile. The nearest bus stop is 3.8 miles away. The nearest park is 1.1 miles away, and the nearest grocery store is more than 4 miles away. So when we look at the preliminary plat in the RS6 zone, all standard building lots shall meet or exceed the 6,000 square foot area with an average of 8,000 square foot overall. The code allows for 20% infill lots, which are smaller than the 6,000 square feet. This project proposes 43 of those infill lots. The smallest infill lot is 5,500 square feet. The smallest standard buildable lot is 6,034 square feet, and so therefore the plat is deemed compliant in that regard. There's a total of 214 lots. This includes 35 common lots, 43 infill lots, and 171 standard size buildable lots. When you take 20% of the largest and 20% of the smallest standard lot, the average of the middle 60% is 8,007 square feet. So it is compliant in that regard as well. Due to the location of this project, which is greater than 85 feet across the right-of-way from Kestrel Estates, that is a platted county subdivision, there are no compatibility requirements. They are within distance, far enough distance away that they don't have to meet that requirement. All master lots demonstrate the required lot width and depth. They will need to dedicate 50 feet from the section line of Happy Valley Road, 50 feet from the section line of East Locust Lane, and additional right-of-way at the intersection of Happy Valley Road and East Locust Lane for the roundabout. The forester did request that they submit a revised landscape plan to remove the river birch. There are 16.4 acres of open space, which calculates out to be 23.3% on 35 common lots. And as mentioned, it includes many amenities in those open spaces. So the conditions of approval are listed in your staff report, and they include the comments that were given by the agencies. It looks as though the GIS department had some street naming comments. They did submit a revised plat, and the GIS department is reviewing that as we speak. And here are your potential motions for annexation, and there are your potential motions for the preliminary plat. I will stand for any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Christie, I do. On the map on page 172,
Okay?
you have the RS6 coming down from that northern subdivision. And you have where it crosses Reidenbar Canal, connects to an RS 8.5. Are those just, why do we have those two odd sections coming in and out of there, from the north and south?
Vice Chairman Kehoe. The area to the north, we'll just start at the top and work our way down. The area to the north is RS6, and it incorporates a certain amount of Happy Valley Road. By state law, we cannot annex via connection of right-of-way, because that's called a shoestring annexation, and that's illegal. So that does not make it adjacent to our city limits. So at the bottom here, of the bottom of the map, where it says RS 8.5, that's actually part of the New York Landing subdivision. And so they were able to acquire permission from these various property owners to create this path of annexation so that they had the legal adjacency to the city limits.
That's some fancy footwork right there.
That's what I thought. I want to get a clarification. Okay, any other questions, Christie?
Are those parcels going to be developed at some point, or is it just there to hook it to the city?
Commissioner Kirkman, you probably should ask the developer, but as of right now, they are not part of the plat. So they're not going to be developed as part of the plat. They're just there to make the connection.
Okay, any other questions? All right, this is for the public. We have, of course, the applicant is in favor, and we have some opposed. And again, the address at 4429 South Happy Valley Road. I think the last name is Nelson. Yes. Could you please step up here and give us your name and address for the record and tell us your thoughts, sir?
My name is Dallas Nelson, and live back in the area where it's really goofy. And I was questioning whether they're gonna run on our lane with more people.
Looks like
than, because we've already got 5 people on that one single lane annexed to our house.
We'll double check with them, but it appears from what was just said that they're not.
Right now, but are they not in the future?
Well, that's true. That's something you have to weigh yourself, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
What was his address?
4429 South Happy Valley Road. And 4433 South Happy Valley Road.
Hi, I'm Linda Hammond. Whoops. From, I need it 4433 South Happy Valley. And my question was similar to Dallas's, was with that sort of patchwork piece there coming across, how that would impact the traffic down our lane where we come in. And if they're not going to develop it, it's not a problem. But if they plan to.
We'll ask the developer, but it sounds like they were not planning on it. But
Yes. And then my other question was the traffic, the exit, because that is brutal in the mornings, trying to either get or in the evenings, trying to get off of Locust onto Happy Valley or off of Happy Valley. So the roundabout, do we know how far in the future that?
We'll ask staff if you get finished.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Daniel, do you know the answer to a question?
Do you want it now, or do you want it at the end?
We'll take it at the end, as long as you're aware of the question, so you don't say, what?
Nope. Keeping track.
Thank you. And we also have 5101 High Hope Lane. Recognize the Steve when I see it, so.
My name's Steve Hendrickson, 5101 High Hope Lane. Me and my brothers, we farm a lot of that ground in that area, all the way to Greenhurst on Happy Valley and towards Robinson and then back towards Lewis from Locust. We are pro-development, a lot of us are. The biggest concern that we have as a family, and I am a cousin to the seller, and we've talked about it also, is that we want to make sure that capacity for sewer, we know that's been an issue with, the city a lot out that way. And in the farming area, we don't want to be landlocked, to farm around homes and then we can't develop, and so we are pro-development. It's just, we would like the city to focus a little bit on, if we're going to go that direction, wonderful, but let's plan for it. So we can all, work together. So I appreciate your guys' time and.
Let me ask you a question, just to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
You have a parcel of land, and you're afraid it's gonna get landlocked, and you'll have no access to have a subdivision of your own.
Exactly, because, and my brothers are the same way. We know that the capacity is an issue out that direction, and so.
Daniel's paying quite attention
Yeah,
to this.
and so that's a big thing for all my brothers. I have 4 brothers. We all farm out there.
Thank you for doing the farming.
Yeah, well, it's getting harder and harder. And so, especially when we don't have no heirs to farm it, because it's so hard now. And so we are pro-development. It's just, we would like it done right.
Sure.
And we appreciate you guys and your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
I have nobody else who would like to speak, is that correct? You're one of the brothers? Okay. Daniel?
In regards to the intersection improvements at Locust and Happy Valley, we do not currently have those scheduled in our capital improvement plans. So they will likely be a ways down the road.
When you say ways, we're talking more than 5 years?
Yes, for sure. To address Commissioner Kirkman's comment regarding the accidents at the intersection, I did pull up and review their traffic impact study, which did review those accidents in the last 5 years. It shows in the last 5-year period that they have reports for, they show 5 accidents at that intersection. 1 accident per year is certainly not a concern for the city. That's an accident rate that we wish we could have lots of places.
That comment just sounded weird.
Yeah.
Accidents not a concern of the city. No, and I didn't, let me restate, I didn't say that there were a bunch of, it could be a deadly because it's so it's off center and Happy Valley has no traffic control there. It's just zipping through.
Yes, and so that is certainly something we look at, and they look at the level of service of the intersection as it is. Ideally, we don't like those offset intersections. We do have them throughout town. We got rid of the one at Amity and South Powerline a number of years ago, and when we do build a roundabout there, that will address those issues in the future. But from a current accident standpoint, there's not a concern from the city based on the volume of accidents that we see at that intersection today. In regards to the sewer capacity, the property that I believe Mr. Hendricks was referencing that they are in control of is north of Locust Lane, between Locust Lane and Greenhurst, the railroad tracks there. That is within a different basin that under the current master plan would require a construction of a new, larger trunk line from the existing wastewater plant behind Fred Meyer out to this site, or to this area. The city is aware of that, and it's within our master plan projects, but it's not something that is in the near term or currently has funding identified for it. One thing we are doing, we are doing an update to our sewer master plan, and one of the things that we will be looking at with this update will be looking at if there are alternative service methods that may be more cost effective for the city and for the development community to develop these areas that were outside of our planning areas back when the infrastructure that comes through the older parts of town was constructed. So that's something we will be looking at, whether or not we're able to determine more cost-effective options, or if those existing master planned improvements are what are needed. That's something that we'll be looking at over the next year and a half as we develop those updated master plans. And I believe that was all the questions.
Daniel, one more question. A couple of them talked about that goofy shaped piece that they're using to connect to and apparently there's a lane down there, and they're wondering about traffic and how this might impact their lane. Do you see any impact there?
I would, unless there were redevelopment to happen on those actual sites that make that annexation path, I would not anticipate any change to that, and that would be something you would likely want to talk to the applicant about, whether or not what their agreements allow for that to happen. It is not an uncommon practice. It's not common, but it's not unheard of. There are a number of places throughout town where I could cite very similar things that have happened where a developer has had a piece of ground, wanted to have it annexed into the city, and approached adjacent neighbors to negotiate the annexation of their property. The couple of the big ones that come to mind would be the property there where the Ridgeview High School is. The developer who purchased all of that and had that, he negotiated with 3 property owners in an old county subdivision, or in a county subdivision there to annex their property to be able to do that. The Lake Brook development is another one that had similar, where they negotiated with someone to be able to get an annexation path.
Another question, which I guess is more for my curiosity than probably the speaker. But Mr. Hendrickson was talking about being landlocked. How do they prevent that from happening, or is it just tough luck if you don't buy the land yourself, or what?
So this would not landlock him in a sense of access or anything.
But in
The issue that he was speaking to was the sewer capacity and the ability for them to develop. This property here would not, by sewering the direction it sewers, it does not impede their ability to sewer to that future trunk line, or as we look at it in the updated master plan, if we find a more efficient way, whether we install a regional lift station or something of that nature that may be more economical, this development would not preclude them from being able to still sewer. It just becomes a timing issue.
Okay. I'm not sure if that answers his question or not, but.
It's an unfortunate where the property that he has is not a property that could gravity sewer into the sewer that this one is taking. So if this were approved, it would not be taking away ability of his property to sewer to there. It's physically not able to at this point anyway.
Daniel, let me just ask you to step over. Mr. Hendrickson, no, you've already had your chance to speak. I tried to get the answer to your question. I'm not sure if I got it properly worded, apparently not. But you can check with Daniel afterwards, and he can talk to you about it. Okay? Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Your turn.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes, sir.
she hasn't spoke, and we haven't closed the public hearing. Is it still possible for her to speak? She asked if she could speak now.
Well, she had written down here, no, that's why I was.
Yeah, well, she raised her hand and asked, so I was just asking the question.
Okay. Ma'am, do you wish to speak, or do you have a question concerning the landlocked?
I want to clarify, he thinks that he knows the land that we're talking about, and I think that he's wrong. I think he doesn't quite know which land we
Well, it
own.
really, I don't.
And you're asking the
Well,
least.
the question is, are you asking about being landlocked, or are you asking
Yes,
about
I want clarification on the landlocked to sewer.
to the sewer?
Correct, because if he,
Okay.
in this, my name is Christina Henriksen, 5101 High Hope in Nampa. And we own, help me out, we own the 50 acres on the other side of the canal. On the south.
South, by the
Sorry,
Elijah Drain.
We
guys,
got a map up there.
that doesn't help me. Well, I'm from the city.
Where the arrow is.
No, but I think that what the commissioner said, I think it might be best if
I
you
just want
guys sat down with Daniel
clarification.
and he could help and make sure that that was the case.
Well, because when Daniel got up and spoke, he declared that it didn't landlock us. And knowing where our land is located helps you to understand that we are potentially landlocked if a proper site trunk line is not put in place when this development is created. So really, that's our biggest concern, is that a proper sized trunk line is put in place from the beginning.
Okay, so then the question is, where is the land you're referring to if Daniel had the wrong place?
Right on the south side.
Yes,
So just south,
yes, it's 50 acres.
okay, and that's along the Elijah Drain? Part of it?
Right there where the arrow is spinning around.
East and south.
Yeah, that's the Elijah Drain right there. Okay.
Is it where
So,
her cursor is circling? Is that correct? It's circling on the TV screen here?
East?
no, the other way.
Okay. Are you clear on that, Daniel? Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, we
I just
gotta-
want to make sure that we're all on the
gotta
same
clarify.
page, and that's our ask, is that that trunk line is set appropriately. So, because then we are landlocked after that, pretty much. So, to no development.
Are you looking up an answer, Daniel, or?
Oh, and we own 15 acres to the east on Locust. South Locust. We were the two that were at the meeting, the first meeting. So, the first public meeting.
Okay, we'll have.
You have the
Thank you
answer?
for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sorry.
We'll see if we can get an answer for you.
Thank you.
Tim Makwa again with Hayden Homes. Do you need my address again? Okay, so I think part of the confusion here is in what's landlocked. Landlocked is typically a term that refers to access to a public right-of-way. So it's more commonly referred to as landlocked if you're blocking somebody from access to a public right-of-way. Because then they couldn't develop their property without an easement across the subject property that's blocking them. As far as sewer landlocking, that's not the case. What happened to our map there? So when this property originally came on the market, there were several other parcels, and I can't guarantee that theirs was one of them, but there was a call for offers of this 71 acre piece and another 190, and I think they're south of the 190. The reason we bought the 71 acres is because it was in the Canyon Sewer Basin, which has capacity. If Daniel gets that back up, or Christie. So you can see the flag of yellow at the corner of Happy Valley and Locust. So we're extending sewer, that 600 feet, I believe it is, and crossing under Locust Lane into the property and extending all the way south to the Reidenbach Canal through our streets. That's gravity, providing gravity sewer to our project. That's why we bought the 71 acres, because it's in the Canyon Basin and can gravity sewer to a basin that's got capacity. South of the Reidenbach is in a different sewer basin. And I think that's where Daniel was going with that. Even if we oversized a trunk line through the project, we can't get it deep enough to go and serve property south of the Reidenbach. So it's not us that's landlocking them. It's gravity, okay? And there's properties all over Nampa that are facing the same situation. That's part of why the city's going through their sewer master plan analysis. So I hope that sheds a little light there.
Did for me.
Okay. One question on the roundabout. One of the conditions in the engineer's recommended conditions of approval is that we dedicate the right-of-way for the roundabout. So I'm not clear on if it's that far out, because I believe our TIS contemplated that as part of the background. Yeah, and I think that was through, negotiations with Caleb on the scope of the TIS. Regarding the fancy footwork, I think that was your comment. So, if I can go back to the flag at the north end, we disagreed with staff, and so we had our attorney look at it. He disagreed with the city's legal counsel. Nevertheless, we had to look for a different way to get our annexation. And from our opinion, we didn't create that long length there. That was really the shoestring annexation, was annexing a portion of the road outside of that subdivision. That shoestring had already been done. Nevertheless, we approached the owner of the odd-shaped piece. He was interested in participating. There were some conditions there that, between us and he, that he participated. He's going to be annexed in with the understanding that when sewer and water is available, he would connect to it.
Your sewer and water.
No, we're not extending sewer and water there at this point. Yeah, it's not part of our subdivision at all. As far as what he does in the future, that is up to him. If he were to try to subdivide that, it's gonna have to meet the conditions of the city for subdivision, and he'd be here tonight, on a night like this, presenting, and they'd have an opportunity to talk about that lane, but we're not proposing any traffic on the lane. The other two odd-shaped pieces are owned by the person that owns the project that we're on. So it wasn't, it looks more convoluted maybe than it is, so. I'm just making sure I've got all of these. I think that's all I think that addressed the questions.
Anybody have any other questions?
Yeah, that portion on Locust that just kind of scoops around, is that where that mobile home park was, or is that further down on Locust?
I don't know too far back on the history. There's a couple of houses there and some barns. There was 3 parcels in there. We actually have a record of survey that I've provided to staff. It's a draft of, we're increasing the size of those parcels to provide more buffer for them because they're staying. That's the owner that we're buying the property from lives in one of those, is my understanding. So they've increased the size, they wanted to increase the size of those to give them more elbow room from the subdivision.
I did have a quick question, it's probably for staff, but does the New York Landing, they don't have access to Happy Valley from that point, do they? Doesn't look like it, but I wasn't sure.
Commissioner Kirkman, their access is onto Alma Lane, which does access onto Happy Valley. When they went in, they had to do some improvements to the intersection of Alma and Happy Valley, adding a left turn bay at that intersection, and those have been completed. already.
Thanks.
Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is closed. Okay, we have two motions that we really need to make here.
Can I ask one more question to staff? I know public hearings.
You betcha.
closed, but, as far as zoning out in that area, is there, I'm looking at kind of what this presents as our area of impact or zone. Is there any commercial planned out there zoning? Because there isn't, you know,
Place to buy bread, huh?
there's no place to buy bread. And I'm just thinking, is it gonna become another food desert like North Nampa if we don't have any commercial or anything that's out there? And I haven't looked at the, yeah, it looks like it's all median, all residential.
Commissioner Kirkman, you are correct. That is a very good observation. We are currently looking at our future land use map to make a few changes because of recent conversations. And if that is an area where you guys feel like it would be appropriate to start looking at commercial development, this would be a great time for you to give that input.
Okay. Consider it inputted.
Okay.
Any other questions? We need a motion to move forward. And there are two. One's the annexation and zoning to RS6, and then we have the
Plat.
preliminary plat. Now I know how Peggy feels when she sits there waiting for everybody to get going.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Vice Chair. Well, it was only a matter of time before development reached out to that corner of the city. But anticipated, so I will move to recommend approval of the annexation and zoning to RS6, single-family residential zoning district at 0 East Locust Lane, and a small strip of 0 Robinson Road in Happy Valley for, on 14.88 acres located on the east side of South Happy Valley Road for Hayden Homes, Idaho LLC, Tim Makwa representing, with all conditions listed in the staff report.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Okay, motion number 2.
Yep, I will again move to approve the preliminary plat for Harvest Creek subdivision at the same address, Locust Lane, Robinson, Happy Valley, 4417 South Happy Valley, for 214 detached single-family lots on about 39 acres and 35 common lots on 14.88 acres. Located on the east side of South Happy Valley Road for Hayden Homes, Idaho LLC, Tim Makwa is representing, with all conditions listed in the staff report.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And hopefully that roundabout will be built quicker, sooner than later.
Okay, I guess that settles it then. We are.